I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into what I call quote-unquote sandbox mode. And the reason why I have sandbox mode is so I can test sample hands against someone who's not going to have any board interaction, so I can basically practice my combos before I start going into matches and playing against players. So yeah, I have like sandbox mode set up, and the sandbox mode deck for the AI is basically just a bunch of fucking equip cards. He can't do anything to me. Sometimes he'll fucking even buff my monsters, but that's not really a big deal. So okay, this hand is pretty decent. There is some problems, and the problem is we didn't open up any Magi Spectre cards, which isn't a huge problem. The bigger problem is not opening up any Metalfoe cards. So I'm more thankful that we opened up Metalfoes and we, then not opening up Magi Spectres. And we have Pot of Cupidity anyway, so we could potentially just draw into one. So Pot of Cupidity usage is very tricky for every deck. Every deck has different conditions they want to meet before they activate Pot of Cupidity. They want to do it at the right time. For Metalfoe, that condition is you want to make sure you know where your Metalfoe spells and traps are, especially combination, because you only run the one, and most importantly Metalfoe fusion, because you only run one Metalfoe fusion, and the only reason you only run one is because you recycle a card. Like once you use it and it gets sent to the graveyard, you can put it back in your deck with its grave effect and you get to draw a card, and you can do that once per turn. So you could use that same Metalfoe fusion up to twice per turn and as many times as you want during the duel. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up Silverbird and we're gonna set up Gold Driver, and we're gonna use Silverbird to blow up Gold Driver. Okay, so now we know where our Metalfoe fusion is, we know where our combination also is. Now if you can help it, you know what I'm saying, know where both of these are at, but most importantly make sure you know where fusion is at. If you don't know where combination is at and you fucking banish it, big fucking deal, right? So now you're gonna Painful Decision, because off of Painful Decision there's only one high skill that you can search off of. So if you fucking banish 2 of your Steel Ren before you Pot of Cupidity, you're obviously not going to get a high scale in any shape, way, or form, unless you draw Summoner's Art and you fucking draw, or you draw just, what's that card called? The fucking tank with Vol Flame right away. So you're going to Painful Decision and you're going to get your high scale first. So okay, so we did all of our searching before we Pot of Cupidity. That is very vital. So chances are when we Cupidity, we aren't going to fucking negatively, we're not going to negatively affect ourselves. Now the only thing that could really happen here negatively is we can banish our Cleaford Scout and Monolith, which is going to not give us access to the Cyber Dragon engine, but that's not really a big deal. Okay, so we didn't banish either of them, so we do have access to our Clee engine. So what we can do at this point is we can scout and we can wait, and we could Infinity during our next turn, but we honestly don't really want to do that. And the reason why we don't really want to do that is because there's no guarantee that the board interaction with our opponent is going to be that favorable for us. But you know what, we're fucking crazy, we're just going to do it anyway. So we're going to activate Scout, and we're going to use Scout to search Monolith, right? Basic Clee engine stuff to get Infinity out. At this point we can't fucking do anything. You cannot special summon monsters except for Clee monsters. This effect cannot be negated. Once per turn you can pay 800 life points, add 1 Clee monster from your hand. So at this point the only thing we can special summon is Monolith. So we got nothing else. Now assuming that like nothing really crazy happens, we're gonna fucking OTK our opponent on the next turn. But you know, we're playing against the sandbox, so nothing crazy is gonna happen. So we're gonna activate Silverbird, we're gonna pop that, we're gonna get counter out, we're gonna Summoner's Art for Vol Flame, we're gonna activate Steel Ren, and keep in mind this is all with no board interaction. I'm just showing you some combos and some things that you can possibly do in the deck. There's a good chance that your opponent would have a strike or a banlist or something to stop your pendulum summon from happening next turn, or he'd be able to clear your board one way or another. And since we didn't control Metalfoe counter, that could have actually been detrimental. We know that he doesn't have anything because this is a sandbox deck. Alright, so at this point you can just make Cyber Dragon Infinity, right? Nova, Infinity. We're going to activate that. And the most optimal way to use Metalfoe combination is you want to fusion summon before you do, like before you blow it up, right? So for this, it's 2 Metalfoe monsters. We're just going to get the regular out because it's Metalfoe Adamant. His materials is basically just a Metalfoe monster and a monster with 2500 or less attack. So in that case, we would just get rid of the eccentric, right? So since we fusion summon when Metalfoe combination is face up on the field, we're going to special summon Steel Ren. We're going to Metalfoe fusion. And that's going to, like I said, put it back in the deck. And it's going to give us a draw. So at this point, guess what we can do? We can fuck around and we can tutor out Metalfoe Fusion again, and we can use Metalfoe Fusion again. That's why you only run the one, because you just keep reusing it. And since Metalfoe combination special summoned a Metalfoe monster from our graveyard, we're gonna get another fusion off, right? And there it is right there. A quick OTK. Obviously there's no board interaction, but I just wanted to show you the combos and the sample hand and show you what you want to be doing, how you use Pot of Cupidity, how you pop stuff with your Metalfoe scales, what you prioritize, what you don't prioritize, and what you need to be thinking about when you're playing the deck. So without further ado, let's get into the deck profile, and then I'm going to show you a replay or two that I played against people with the deck, so you can see how the deck interacts with other players. So onto the deck profile. What is going on, YouTube? It is your boy Shiranui Flame, and I'm gonna be doing my Metalfoe deck profile for August 1st 2016. As of right now, we're still on the April ban list. We have not gotten the new updated ban list, which probably isn't gonna drop until Worlds ends, probably a week after Worlds. So we probably have like a week or two left until we get the ban list. That's just my prediction, but you know, Konami fucking does things whenever they want, and they do whatever they want, so who knows. Before I start talking about the actual deck, I want to talk about it as a whole and not individually. First and foremost, I am running the Klee engine in this, and for those of you who don't know, the way the Klee engine works is you set Scout, you pay for Scout, you search a monolith, and then if you have a high or and a low skill, and at least one of those things is a Metalfoe's monster, you get Cyber Dragon Infinity out basically for free. And chances of you getting Infinity out if you open up Klee Scout going first, for me it's typically like 8 out of 10 times. I almost always successfully get Cyber Dragon Infinity out if I open up Scout. It's extremely easy to do in this deck, and if you take anything out of this, like take this out of it, like I really advise you to try it. It's extremely consistent, and Cyber Dragon Infinity just gives you like an immense amount of control turn 1 in this deck, because you have so many other cards in this deck to control the field, especially if you can make Ultimaya Sulkin. So yeah, with that said, just some tech choices. Amorphous Sloth, you've probably seen this in some OCG deck list. I'm not sure if people here on the TCG are messing around with this, but I've been seeing this in the OCG really for a while, for like, I want to say like a month and a half. I've been seeing people splash this in Pendulum decks in the OCG. It's basically a Vanity's Fiend that you can Pendulum out, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it hurts you as well, but the thing is, you could always pop this card with your own scales when you want to get it off the field, you know what I'm saying? It's basically like a Vanity's Emptiness that you can turn on and off. Like during your opponent's turn, it's on. During your turn, you can just turn it off by popping it. And if you really need to, you can just Pendulum Summon it right the fuck back. So yeah, really fucking good card. It's really hard for decks to deal with this card. The only reason I run one is because I have other control cards in the deck, and if you open up 2 of these, you fucking lost the game. And really, and sometimes if you open this card up and you don't have the right board established already, it might hurt you a little bit. So only run one. If you get this card out under the right circumstances, you will fucking win the game, guaranteed. Your opponent will not be able to do shit. Between an Amorphous Sloth and a Cyber Dragon Infinity, your opponent isn't doing anything. So okay, right on to the fucking deck profile. Enough of the tech choices for the deck. Everything else is pretty much standard except for a little thing here and there, and I'll touch up on it as I go. I'm running 3 of every Metalfoe monster except for Silverbird. The reason why I'm not doing 3 Silverbird is because this deck has a high scale problem as it is. You know what I'm saying? So I want to sort of even the scales out. So I only run 2 Silverbird. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty fucking simple to understand my reasoning. Running 3 Silverbird isn't bad, but I felt like at 2 the deck gets a little bit more consistency. And all these Metalfoe monsters, they all search the same pendulum effect. They're all vanillas. They just have different stats and different levels. So yeah, I am running for my Magic Spectre engine. I'm running 3 Bunbuku and 3 Kirin. And what you don't normally see is you don't normally see people run Magic Spectre Fox QB. I'm not sure why, but I'm gonna tell you why I run Magic Spectre Fox QB is because in Metalfoe typically you'll need to set up turn 1, and when your turn comes back again you'll be able to OTK, or you'll be able to do a lot of damage or clear your opponent's board very quickly. So Magic Spectre Fox QB searches out a Magic Spectre spell or trap, right? That's why we're running Magic Spectre Tempest. And Magic Spectre Tempest is essentially Solemn Strike. It does the same exact thing Solemn Strike does, except the cost is a little bit different. The cost is to tribute a Magic Spectre monster, and well, technically a Wind Spellcaster monster, which if there's other Wind Spellcaster monsters in the game, I don't fucking know. But you know, in this deck you're gonna be tributing a Magic Spectre monster for it. And you know, it's searchable, unlike Solemn Strike. Sometimes you don't want to see Solemn Strike, but when you want to see Magic Spectre Tempest, you can see it. You know what I'm saying? That's why I run Magic Spectre Tempest instead of Solemn Strike. I feel like it gives me a lot of board control, and it's really easy to just search it out when I need it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I run it to QB. You guys know what Kirin does. He just, you know, targets a pendulum monster, puts it in the extra deck, and bounces back a monster your opponent controls. Only thing is, it targets, it doesn't do anything against Cosmo, but this card is still way too fucking good to run. But like with Cyber Dragon Infinity and Magic Spectre Unicorn Kirin, the amount of board control that you have and to stop your opponent's play is absolutely incredible. So you need to run 3 Kirin. He's also a low scale, which, you know, you have a lot of, but he's the reason why you have a lot of low scales, because you're running this card. Bunbuku just searches these 2. That's all it fucking does. Real simple. Blackwing Gofu, the Hazy Shadow. This card is really interesting because when Gofu special summoned, and by the way, you can't control any monsters when you special summon Gofu, like it's basically Cyber Dragon. He summons, well, he can summon, you have a choice to summon 2 tokens, and with these tokens you can't basically you can't do anything with these tokens. There's very few things in this game that take advantage of the tokens. The first one being Scrap Dragon. Scrap Dragon could take advantage of the tokens. Another thing is Metalfoes can pop the tokens for free fucking tutors to tutor the spell and trap cards out on the field. So for that reason, those tokens are a free plus for this deck. It's absolutely incredible. I really would not play this deck without Gofu. Like, it's just, if you don't play Gofu in your Metalfoe deck, then I don't know what to fucking tell you. You could forego the Magic Spectre engine if you want. You could forego the Klee engine, but if you're not playing Gofu, then like you really need to consider what you're doing with your life. And also with Gofu, you can make Ultimaya Sulkin really easily in this deck. The way you do it is you place Gofu and then you fusion for Metalfoe Adamant. Since you can pop Gofu's tokens to search out for your Metalfoe fusion, you're gonna get Adamant out. You know what I'm saying? It's only 1 Metalfoe's monster and 1 monster with 2500 or less attack. That also counts the tokens. So the way the combo works is you Gofu, right? Summon the 2 tokens, you pop a token to tutor Metalfoe fusion out on the board, and then you fusion summon a Metalfoe monster, which chances are you're gonna have one. This is a fucking Metalfoe deck. There's a million ways to search them. And then you could use that other token that you didn't pop as the other material for Metalfoe Adamant. And then you have Metalfoe Adamant and Gofu out on the board. They're both level 5. You make Ultimaya Sulkin. Boom, right? And if you don't have a spell trap card to set, to summon something, it's fucking Metalfoe, bro. They tutor spell and trap cards out on the field. So trust me, if you open up fucking Gofu, you're going to ult my Ahsoken, like every single time. Like there hasn't been a single time where that I hadn't opened up Gofu and I didn't ult my Ahsoken, unless of course there was like some kind of board interaction, like a max C being dropped or some shit like that didn't allow me to. But yeah, and that's why I'm running Void Ogre, Crystal Wing, Black Rose, and you can make all these cards also with Gofu without going through Soken, except for Crystal Wing. Crystal Wing is the only monster in this deck that you can only make going through Soken. So yeah, 2 Arc Phoenix Centric. This is a high scale, which is really good, and you know, this deck pendulum backs constantly. It constantly reuses resources because of the Magic Specters. They get effects when they touch the board. QB searches traps, Bambuko searches Magic Specter monsters. These pop themselves and get put in the extra deck, so you could use them again. You're constantly going to be pendulum back. So the monster effect is actually very relevant in this deck. The fucking, I believe, Exiled Force, I forget the name of that old school card, but yeah, you tribute this card and you target one monster on the field and you destroy it. You know what I'm saying? It's really good for getting rid of those big problem beaters like Blue Eyes Alternative Dragon. It's good for baiting out effects, like making the ABC monster fucking banish himself right then and there. It's good for a lot of things, and also it's a MST for the deck. So yeah, it's really good, man. You fucking you can MST with it. You can fucking blow up a monster with it, like Exiled Force. You could use it as a pendulum scale. You could even fuck around and use this as an Exceed material for Break Sword. You can use it for a synchro material because it's level 3 for Gofu to make a level 8 synchro. There's so many applications for Arc Phoenix Centric in this deck. It's probably the most versatile tech card in this deck, and you have to be able to use this card optimally when you get it, because not using it for the right thing can easily fuck you over. But typically, after you use this shit as a scale, or you fucking blow up a back row, you'll be good to go. Like after that, it's really hard to fuck up what you would use it for, unless you know you pendulum out and it gets Solemn Strike and it goes to the fucking graveyard. Then boo boo, like there goes your fucking Arc Phoenix Centric. Lesser Pendulum, the Draco Slayer. You know what this fucking card does. Amorphous Sloth, I explained that. Potty Cupidity, right? This is the new draw power card coming out in the Dark Illusion. This card is very risky. In Metalfoe, it's extremely good though. You know what I'm saying? It's extremely good. The thing is, you have to be very, very careful of how you use this card in this deck. There are some things that you need to do before you use this card. The most important thing being, make sure you know where your Metalfoe fusion is at. Make sure it's either on the fucking field or in the graveyard, ready to be bounced back to your deck off its own effect. And that's the reason why you only run one Metalfoe fusion, because you could reuse Metalfoe fusion as many fucking times as you want. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. So basically, once you use Metalfoe fusion, it goes to your graveyard, and once per turn, you can put it back in your deck, and you can draw a card. So you basically just reuse the same Metalfoe fusion, and you could use Metalfoe fusion basically up to twice per turn. For that reason, when you pot a Cupidity, you better make sure you know where this is at, because if you banish it with Metalfoe fusion, your plays are going to be very, very limited. Not having access to Adamant for Blackwing Gofu to make Sulkin sucks, and not having Ori Hulk sucks. I don't really play too much focus on the fusions themselves. I bust out, like, first of all, Ori Hulk is a 2800 beater. It does double fucking piercing damage, and you draw a card when it's destroyed. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't draw a card, but you get to destroy something when it's destroyed. So it's basically like, think about it like a Man-Eater Bug in a way, even though Man-Eater Bug has to be flipped. But you know what the fuck I'm saying. So that's why you run one Metalfoe fusion. In the next set, Invasion of Venom, we're getting more Metalfoe fusion monsters, which, you know, are really fucking good. So, you know, when that time comes around, we'll consider more than one Metalfoe fusion. And there's also a quick play fusion spell card coming out for Metalfoe, so we'll consider that when that comes around. But this is for what we have now in the TCG. The fucking sneak peek is tomorrow, so these cards are all going to be legal tomorrow. Painful Decision is just going to search out your smaller Metalfoes. The only monster who's not a candidate to be searched off of Painful Decision is going to be Volflame, because he's level 7. So, you know, obviously for Painful Decision it has to be level 4 or lower. Yeah, it just lets you search what you fucking need. It's real simple. Metalfoe Counter. This card, you want to make sure you use this card correctly. The first effect is when something is destroyed on your field, you can activate this card and you can special summon a Metalfoe's monster from your deck. So typically, like, what you would do is turn 1, right? You would set up a bunch of fucking cards, right? Hopefully you had Metalfoe monsters so you could pop stuff and you could get these out on the board, because this is going to stop you, 1, from being OTK'd, and 2, if your board does get cleared and your scales get cleared, this is going to allow you to recover when it's your turn to get your scales back. You know what I'm saying? And also utilize those monsters that you special summon during your opponent's turn, because, you know, when this card is in the graveyard, you can activate it and you can get back a Metalfoe's monster that's face up in your extra deck and add it to your hand, so you can replenish your scales. Or if you're missing a monster for a scale, you could purposely target a fucking 1 or 8 scale, you know, knowing that they're gonna get destroyed, and even if they don't, you'll still be able to get it back into your hand, you know what I'm saying, with Metalfoe's Counter. So yeah, you gotta run this card. Sometimes, like, I would like to run 3. I gotta test it a little bit more, but I like it at 2. This card is extremely crucial. It doesn't float in the graveyard though, so once you've used your Metalfoe's counters, like, that's it, you don't have any more. But typically you only need to activate them once, and I prioritize these turn 1 every single time. These are the only ones that I set. The only time I would set Metalfoe Fusion turn 1 is when I have Pot of Cupidity and I don't want to fucking banish this card. So yeah, this card is extremely fucking good, and if it doesn't get Twin Twisted, you're gonna be in luck. This Emptiness, you know what this does. Metalfoe's Combination. Once per turn, if a fusion monster is fusion summoned, you can target 1 Metalfoe's monster in your graveyard whose level is less than that fusion monster's level. Special summon it. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Metalfoe's counter from your deck to your hand. So the combo of this, the most optimal combo would be, you flip this card face up, right? So you activate it, because Metalfoe's could only destroy face up cards on a field. You fusion summon, right? And then you get to special summon a Metalfoe's from your graveyard, whether it got sent there because you used it as a fusion material from your hand, or a Painful Decision sent one there, or it got Psalm Striked, you know, a lot of different fucking things, right? And then you fucking pop it and you get a search effect in the graveyard. So that's the most optimal way to use it. But typically you're just gonna pop it when it's face up, and you're just gonna search a Metalfoe's monster, because if all's going well, then you don't have any Metalfoe's in your graveyard, unless of course we talk about Painful Decision. Magic Spectre Tempest, like I said, it's a searchable Solemn Strike. Summoner's Art, you need these to search these. You know what I'm saying? And this makes the deck a lot more consistent, because it helps you get to your high scale a lot more reliably. You know what I'm saying? So like with this, you basically have, you want to think about it like 9 Metalfoe high scales, which, you know, for a lot of people's builds is the problem, but I wanted to make sure that I found the way around that. So that's the main deck right there. You could play around with the ratios. Like for example, you could throw in a 3rd Metalfoe combination if you wanted to. You could throw in a 3rd Arcfiend Eccentric if you wanted to. You could throw in Twin Twisters if you wanted to, even though I don't like discarding in this deck. You know, I would actually prefer if you guys ran MST. I feel like it would be a better fit for the deck, because this is a combo based deck and you don't really get any graveyard effects unless the card is destroyed. You know what I'm saying? You don't get anything off of discarding in this deck. It's just a pure negative play in this deck. That's why I don't run Twin Twister. So for the action real quick, Break Sword, you run Silverbird, you run Bunbuku, and you run Eccentric as your level 3. So Break Sword is really easy to make. Cyber Dragon Infinity, I already explained, you make it with the Klee engine. Nova, you use to make Infinity. Utopia and Utopia the Lightning, the fucking MVP of any extra deck. If you can run Utopia the Lightning, run it. If you think you can't run Utopia the Lightning, you probably can. You just need to find a way. And you know, that's another plus of Magic Spectre Fox QB, man. He's a fucking level 4, so I could use him with Gold Driver and Luster Pendulum the Draco Slayer to make Utopia the Lightning, man. And we know what Utopia the Lightning does. Nothing floats when Utopia the Lightning attacks. Nothing could be activated. It's amazing. You know what I'm saying? Amazing. Big Eye because you run 3 Volflame, and Volflame is simply going to be a Metalfoe's monster that's only going to be in your scale for 1 turn, and then eventually you're going to get it on your board. So making Big Eye is really easy in this because I always get my Volflames on the board. It's the biggest beater out of the fucking Metalfoe main deck monsters, so obviously you want to have it on the board after you already use it to peddle them out, because I do use Volflame, like, because you see Volflame a lot more than you see Steel Ren because of the Summoner's Art. So yeah, I do use Volflame to peddle him something out, and then I blow it up with one of my low scales and get him face up in the extra deck. Cyframe Lord Omega, this lets you see what you banish with Pot of Cupidity, and you know, it putting stuff back into the graveyard isn't really going to help you unless you're going to use Metalfoe combination, but it's just to see what you send to your graveyard, so you know what's in your deck and what's not in your deck, and you can play accordingly. And not only that, he's a 2800 beater, and he banishes himself and a card from your opponent's hand, so he just takes resources away, and he just dodges a lot of effects. So Cyframe Lord Omega definitely should have run this card. Blackwing Tamer, Obsidian Hawkjoe. Alright, hear me out. The reason why I run this is with Metalfoe Steel Ren, right? If you use this and Gofu to make this, you can special summon Gofu back from your graveyard onto the board, and you can make another synchro play. So basically he's just a free 2600 beater, because Gofu can be special summoned from the graveyard as long as he was special summoned by its effect on the field first. So yeah, it's a really cool tech that I haven't seen anybody else run. It's really good. I've done it a few times. Typically what I would do is I'll use Steel Ren to make him, then I'll bring Gofu back, and then I'll use like a level 3 to make a level 8 synchro. So yeah, he's just a free 2600 beater. Ignister, you know what Ignister fucking does. I don't have to tell you what Ignister does. Crystal Wing, you make this off of Sulkin, he negates a monster effect. Whenever he attacks a level 5 or higher monster, he gains attack equal to its current attack. So it just gets over all fucking beaters that are level 5 or higher, which is most beaters if we're not talking about rank monsters like Xyz monsters and shit. With Ogre Dragon, you know what this does. I make it off of Sulkin, but typically I really just make it straight up off of like a level 3 and Gofu. Black Rose Dragon, I make this with Steel Ren and Gofu, or you can fuck around and make it off of Sulkin as well. It clears boards, and since this deck holds all its resources either in the hand because of Metalfoe counter or face up an extra deck after you Black Rose Dragon, if they don't stop this, typically you can OTK if it's in the middle of the game. So yeah, Black Rose Dragon is a must run. And the 2 fusions, Adamant is really just a beater or just a way to make Sulkin, and Ori Hulk is just a beater who can close out games. You know what I'm saying? Double fucking piercing damage. If the monster has 0 defense, you're doing 5600 to their life points off an attack with that. In the side deck, you guys know what these fucking cards do, and if you don't, you need to get familiar. I'm not going to explain them to you because this is about the deck profile. So tell me what you guys think about my build. I'm sorry if I rambled a little bit too long, but I wanted to make sure that I explained the deck and the combos a little bit to you guys, because really that's just the best way to learn. Like, you guys can watch our ultimate deck profiles to get a quick matchup chart and some quick pros and cons and a quick overview and some quick replays to just basically help you understand the deck a little bit so you can build it yourself. And then there's videos like this that just break down the entire deck for you verbally, and this is the best way to learn if you have the patience for it. And I understand not everyone learns well this way. Some people just learn well off of the ultimate deck profiles that we fucking do. So give us some feedback, man. Rate, comment, and subscribe. Sure do we flame out.